Also, I'm going to be watching the chat box just to make sure we've got any questions covered.
Thank
you.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, it's fine by us too. So all good.
Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Mike and Joseph, for joining us today. We have quite a few people on the call. I'm not familiar with all of the individuals, but I know that states were inviting some of their field biologists to attend so they could see what you guys have been working on. And Joseph and Mike have been working with Kansas recently to build on a tool that they worked on in Nevada for aerial survey work. And I'll just give a brief introduction of Joseph and Mike. Mike is a senior consultant and practice lead for state and local government, environment, and natural resource customers at Esri. And he has more than 27 years of experience working in GIS and mapping, including management positions in the private sector, as well as Pennsylvania state government. And then we have Joseph. He's also a senior consultant, and he's the technology team lead on the environment and geodesign department in Esri's professional services division. He helps customers utilize location intelligence and geospatial technology capabilities to solve complex, multifaceted problems. In addition, Joseph assists customers to develop strategic geospatial governance plans for sustainable implementation and utilization of ArcGIS technology to support business needs. So the group that you're presenting to today, Mike and Joseph, like I said, we have some field biologists on the call, but this is mainly a geospatial technical committee that was formed through WAFWA. Mike is familiar with the WAFWA chat, Chanda, and he had worked with Mike Houts in the past when we were moving things to the cloud environment. So we have geospatial technical leads, and it sounds like a lot of field biologists as well. So I'll turn it over to you and Mike and Joseph.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for the introduction and also the opportunity to speak with you all today. We really appreciate it. In my role at Esri, I've been at Esri about 6.5 years. I've had a couple of different roles, but particularly I was on our business development side on our state's government team for several years before the role that I'm in now in professional services. And in that, I actually engaged quite a bit with WAFWA, including for aerial survey coordination and solutions and things like that. But have definitely participated in the, sort of annual events and committees, and things like that. I'm not quite as regular of a participant at the moment, although I do keep pace with WAFWA as an organization and the committee progress, and things like that. And some of what we're going to talk about today was actually born out of the Mule Deer working committee back in 2018-ish, 2018, 2019. We definitely had a lot of coordination, back then as well. But again, really happy to speak with you all today. Really appreciate the opportunity. And I'll go ahead and share my screen here and we can go ahead and get rolling. So just give me 1 second. All right, Joseph, can you give me a thumbs up if we can see the PowerPoint slide? Okay. All right, excellent. Cool. All right. So again, what we want to talk about today, as Dana mentioned, is the support we've been providing, the solutions that we've seen implemented to help aerial wildlife survey programs. As I mentioned, some of this sort of came out of some discussions in WAFWA, also at our own Esri user conference events, and things like that. But really, saw a nice chance and opportunity, right, to take ArcGIS out of the box solutions as well as some tailored ones and be able to really apply those, right, to aerial wildlife survey workflows, for the purposes of enhancing, streamlining, bringing to bear geospatial capabilities, right, things like that. And so what we're going to talk to you today about are, Dana mentioned Nevada. We're going to talk about that a little bit because that was kind of the first one where we really, collaborated, with a state to bring the program forward, and then how that kind of branched out to other states, including Kansas, and sort of how the evolution of how these solutions are being deployed and some of the various options, right, that we have within those. But just for clarity too, I know we had the introduction and everything. So Joseph and I were both actually on the same team, the Environment and Geodesign Department. Within that, I focus particularly on state and local environment, which of course includes fish and wildlife agencies across the country. But the professional services side of Esri is kind of the consulting side, right? So we do have various types of engagements, right? You know, and things like that, where we can work side by side with our customers and our users to help with implementation. So, and some of the work that we'll be talking about today was definitely supported by that as well. So I just wanted to mention that kind of how, you know, if you're not familiar, how that kind of comes together with Esri. Okay, so getting into it, so what I'm going to start with is sort of our timeline. Like I said, there was some sort of collaboration and coordination through various means to really start thinking about how ArcGIS-oriented solutions and just geospatial technology in general, right, could be applied to aerial wildlife survey workflows, and how that kind of got us to the work with Nevada and sort of the timeline around that. So back in 2018 is really where the conversations, especially with NDOW, with Nevada Department of Wildlife, and us really started taking off. In fact, Cody and McKee and Jenna Larkin from Nevada Wildlife came up to me at the Esri User Conference in 2018 out in San Diego, and we're like, we've got to be able to streamline our workflows around aerial survey workflows. You're Esri, you got to be able to help us, right? Your tools have to be able to, there's got to be a way, right, that we can bring all of this together. And that's literally how the conversation started. And at that time, you know, Survey 123 was out. It's certainly not as advanced as it is now, but it was really coming into its own at that time. There was no QuickCapture, which we're going to talk about QuickCapture. Many of you that are GIS folks are familiar with QuickCapture too. It's another one of our field data collection applications. But it was starting to be thought of. And so sort of the stars aligned a little bit, so to speak, right? Because we've got Nevada coming to us, hey, we really need this sort of on-the-go data collection, rapid fire, right, kind of thing. And we were also thinking the same thing at Esri, right? That we need a data collection tool that can, you know, be able to support these types of workflows, these types of situations. And so we got, you know, some other folks at Esri, some of the product teams that were working on this together and really started visioning how this could look like. And I'll be honest with you, the work through Nevada Wildlife and their wildlife survey helped to steer some of where QuickCapture has gone. So, which is really exciting for people like myself and Joseph. That's like a really exciting thing when that happens. But anyways, we coordinated a lot there, kind of got a game plan going. At the same time, I was, as I mentioned before, speaking with folks at WAFWA, particularly the Mule Deer Working Group and some other folks, and really starting to look at, okay, the work, you know, potentially we would do with Nevada, you know, how does that look relative to other states in the West, other of the member states, you know, as part of WAFA? Is there repeatability here, you know, that kind of thing? And so these conversations and coordinations were starting to happen, like I said, back in the middle of 2018. From there through the spring of 2019, we started doing some proofs of concept because, again, QuickCapture wasn't really a product yet, you know, that kind of thing. So with that and Survey 123, really working closely with our product folks, us, NDOW, to really put together proofs of concept of how this could work. Got to an agreeable place there in 2019, and then NDOW actually went out for RFP in order to end up, as a resulted, contract us to help them with the implementation of ArcGIS-based solutions, right, for their aerial survey workflows. We started that project in 2020 in September, and the initial release came the next year in July of 2021. We've done some enhancements work since then through last year, but they've really been using the solutions for a good bit of time now through several survey seasons, right, and for different types of surveys, right, and things like that. Kind of simultaneously with some of the project work and enhancements, like I said, we're looking at other states, right, as well, and through WAFWA and things like that. And so we actually engaged with Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife as well last year, starting in March of 2022. In that case, they liked what they saw from NDOW and were like, hey, we want to adopt a very similar approach here, but we need to know you know, how to make tweaks to it, right? How to sustain it into the future, that kind of thing. So what we did was basically did a workshop with them to deliver the templates as we could, right, for Survey 123 and QuickCapture and App Studio, which I'll talk about in a second. Basically taught them how to, leverage them and within their environment. And then they released them later in the year, actually around the beginning of this year. Also Kansas, as Dana was mentioning, we started working with Kansas. Also kind of another situation of, they saw the Nevada work, thought about that relative to their own workflows for aerial surveys, for pronghorn surveys and waterfowl and so on and so forth. And so through this year, which we're just finishing up actually, we worked with them to provide some support for their aerial survey workflows as well. As I'll talk about here in a second, and as Joseph will show you, there's been an evolution though, as we've kind of gone through this, right? In terms of how we can sort of position our solutions, right? Our out-of-the-box solutions, things like Survey 123 and QuickCapture around these workflows, and we'll talk about that here going forward. And like I said, Joseph will demonstrate that for you as well. But just kind of wanted to give you a timeline of where we've been. We've talked to a lot of other states in the meantime, of course, through this time period as well. But these are really those focused kind of states, right, that we've been working with and that have been implementing the tools. So starting out with NDOW, I sort of mentioned some of this already, but their big challenge was they were using clipboard, paper, pencil, sometimes spreadsheet, right, up in the helicopter, separate GPS unit, right? And so the data collection itself was pretty cumbersome to begin with, but then they had this whole second half of taking that data that was collected and transforming it into a usable form, typically by spreadsheets, to be honest with you. And they were spending just as much time outside of the surveys, right, transforming that data, updating it, as they were actually collecting it, right? So if you've ever seen the video that was produced, right, Cody mentions in there, by implementing GIS-based solutions, they can now spend more time being a biologist as opposed to a data manager, right? That kind of thing. And that's really what it's all about, is that streamlining, right, of not only data collection, but it being usable, right, and that kind of thing, in a good format. There's also some safety concerns, right, with all this too. You're fumbling around with a lot of different equipment in the helicopter, that kind of thing as well. And so they were looking to overcome that too. And then again, that resulting data, how usable is it? How do I make comparisons among years between areas, right? My hunt areas, how do I look at ratios, of species or age groups, that kind of thing. And they'd end up with many, many spreadsheets, to be able to do this. We all know how spreadsheets are, and being able to visualize this kind of thing on a map obviously brings to bear a whole lot of other things and a whole lot of other analysis potential, right, and things like that. And so they're really looking to streamline the program, enhance the safety in the helicopter, but then also, creating a mechanism that was much more usable, especially from an analytical standpoint. And, obviously the aerial wildlife surveys are a critical data component, right, to all the work, that Nevada Wildlife does from a management, from a hunting perspective, and so on and so forth. So with those challenges in mind, this is the actual solution approach that we took with Nevada Wildlife. It does, as you can see, leverage ArcGIS Survey 123 and QuickCapture, but is actually rooted within ArcGIS App Studio because there were some custom pieces that needed to be incorporated as part of the solution. I mean, as you'll see, which Joseph will show, the vast majority of functionality from a data collection standpoint leverages QuickCapture and Survey 123 out of the box, but there were a few components, things like branding, but also some of the particular requirements, which he'll show you, that made us also leverage App Studio, right, in order to tailor and customize those solutions. And Survey 123 and QuickCapture are actually built in App Studio, right? So you can actually take those templates into App Studio and tailor them, customize them, and that's exactly what we did here based on those requirements. But effectively, the way it works is the user has App Studio Player, all right, on their device, on their mobile device that they're going to use for data collection. They then download those Survey 123 and QuickCapture templates, initialize their project or their flight, right, which creates a unique identifier that's, of course, carried through the data collection process. They then use Survey 123 to actually plan for the flight. So things like, okay, what's the weather conditions? Who are the observers? Who's the pilot? You know, what species are we targeting today? You know, all those sorts of pre-planning things before you actually go up in the helicopter. Then when the flight is going to take place, they switch over, which is an automatic thing. Something else we used App Studio for was that tight integration of Survey 123 and QuickCapture. It flips over to QuickCapture to do the actual data collection, right? That then all of this is backed by ArcGIS Online. So as soon as that data is collected, if they are connected or if they're disconnected when they sync, that data is then available in ArcGIS Online. They then have a configured dashboard to analyze the flight information that's being collected, that's available at their fingertips. And we also set up a web app builder to help them with any kind of QA, QC, maybe some additional content that needs to be added, you know, things like that. They can also use that to review the audio, right? So we collect audio too when the observations are being made, you know, things like that. So very holistic, you know, kind of approach here. It did require some App Studio, again, based on requirements for a little bit of customization. But again, more largely leveraging Survey 123 and QuickCapture out of the box with some tailoring. I sort of mentioned the video earlier. I have 2 links in the bottom here. I can throw these in the chat as well, but hopefully you've seen we did write an article documenting, you know, kind of the work out there in Nevada, and there's a pretty cool video as well that kind of shows the process in video form too. So definitely share those once Joseph gets going. I'll drop those in the chat. So that's how we approach Nevada. And again, Joseph will be showing you a little bit more of this. That's also the same approach, again, taken up in Washington. Now, when we started working with Kansas earlier this year, we focused in on pronghorn aerial surveys and waterfowl aerial surveys. And for the pronghorn surveys, these are kind of pre-planned transect surveys, right? We've got predefined transects that you're following, and when observations are made, right, a point is dropped, and some fairly simple data is collected, right, at the time as well, right, associated with that point. It's important to be able to visualize these points to know what's been surveyed, and also to be able to capture and visualize the flight tracks during and after the surveys, right? Again, to know what's been surveyed, including when you're in the air, but also afterwards as well. For the waterfowl aerial surveys, these are more plot-based surveys along major rivers and water bodies. There, the needs were largely to navigate to those plots and display bearings and distances too from where observations were made to the nearest plots. And again, a fairly simple attribute data collection, a little bit simpler than what we worked with in Nevada there. It's like what's there and how many, you know, that kind of thing is largely what's being collected. So from that standpoint, a bit simpler, you know, in terms of the data that's being collected during the actual flights and observations. And so largely because of that, we've actually, you know, the inspiration, of course, was the work in Nevada and Washington. But as we evaluated this, we're like, wait, we can actually do this with out-of-the-box tools, no App Studio required, no customization required. We feel like we can take Survey 123, QuickCapture, and then, of course, dashboards for visualization and be able to address both of these workflows. And so what you're seeing here and what Joseph will show is that configurable approach, right? It is, and we do have a flexibility of options within there, which will also show too, you know, maybe ArcGIS, you know, Survey 123 for the real data collection, QuickCapture for, you know, the collection of the flight tracks, right? You know, that sort of thing. Or maybe we use a little bit more QuickCapture, right? So depending upon requirements, right, there's a flexibility of options within this COTS approach, but also comparing COTS with a custom approach and sort of that flexibility is a range of options kind of through there. In this scenario too, we're leveraging ArcGIS Online with Kansas, but everything we're showing you could be backed by ArcGIS Enterprise, right, as well. I'm sure we all know that we can deploy Survey 123 and QuickCapture and dashboards via ArcGIS Enterprise. I'd recommend 10.9 and above or more recent, just due to some of the capabilities, particularly with QuickCapture that are in there. But really, it could go back to 10.7.1. That's when we first really started supporting QuickCapture there, and Survey 123 was already in place. Of course, having this in ArcGIS Online and/or Enterprise gives us the ability to not only do these things here, but additional visualizations. You're working with web maps, you're working with hosted feature layers and services and that kind of thing. And so it opens up a whole realm of possibility, even beyond what we're going to show you here today, and from an analytical standpoint too. So real point here is that, depending upon requirements and situations, the flexibility of options, we've been able to take that configurable out of the box approach with Kansas. And, or there may be some lighter customization like we did, with Nevada and Washington took advantage of as well. So with that overview, I'm now going to turn it over to Joseph, who's actually going to demonstrate the solutions from both, all right, from Nevada as well as Kansas.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mike.
Stop sharing. Yep.
I believe you should be able to see my screen.
Yep. See my workspace, excuse me.
Perfect. Yeah, I will start from where Mike stopped and then walk backwards. And the one big thing I want to mention here is Mike did say as we began working with Nevada, there was not much that had been done from a QuickCapture perspective, and also these capabilities that were there in Survey 1 to 3 were not as great as they are today. And so based on that, we've always been able to look at what is available from a technology standpoint and figure out what the customer requirements are and try to map that into the technology and see, do we need to go to just a COTS approach where we can leverage whatever is available out of the box, or is there a particular reason for us to be able to go into a custom route? An example of this is the work that we've done with Kansas here, and I'll begin with the waterfall or sort of the Goose service that we've been able to support here, where the team that is collecting this information came to us and said, we basically have strata that we've sampled out there, and we have the plots already identified, and these are the places we want to go and survey these geese basically. And what the team was previously doing was basically printing quite a significant number of maps that would show each plot and all the data that they would need to see to bring with them to the flight. And then as they kind of get into that, they could check up and kind of record that data manually and things like that. We took that and we were able to transform that into a very simple application, which is utilizing QuickCapture. One of the things that you see here is it's got two buttons, a very simple application. And the first button is to basically use or sort of do the observations. The second one is to do the tracking. And this goes back to Mike's point of we need to be able to see where we have been and also what we have collected over time. For that reason, we've got these two buttons, and also on the right here, we have a side-by-side view of the data collection as well as the map. I'm sitting in Redlands, and so this does not give you that view, but if you allow me, I'll just basically zoom out here, and you can see sort of within Kansas what we have been able to do. I'll zoom in a little bit here, and as you kind of come down into this level here, you see the work that we've done where we basically worked with this team to identify what stratas do you want to, and it keeps sending me back to Redlands again here. So you see that play kind of going back and forth. Now, what we did here is try to identify those areas that have been identified, and what we would do is get a way of providing information to the person that is doing the data collection, so that when you're out there, if you are close to this particular strata here or stratum here, you basically know what is around you in terms of the other stratas that need to be mapped or have not been mapped yet. So if you look at this, you'll be able to see, if I look at this plot, I've been here, I can see the route that the helicopter that I was using is taking and things like that. And I can see the data points that I've been able to take within that. And at the same time, I can basically figure out what are the other stratas that are basically close to this. And we have distance and bearing for each of the plots that are surrounding this, which this is information that we basically pre-process and put on here to enable someone be able to say, okay, if the weather conditions, for example, for going south are not looking as great, you've got an option to take a look while you're still within the space here and say, I'm going to go this direction, and the closest one is going to be either this, or it's going to be something that I want to take a different route where I can go to this so that I can capture these on my way here. So that is for planning purposes. You're able to see the map and you're able to get all this information right within your iPad and be able to do that as you need. Now, getting into the data collection, this was a very simplistic thing where that team basically said to us, we just need to collect two types of information. One, the number of pairs that we see, and two, the number of unpaired observations that we record. So for the purpose of the demonstration here, I'm just going to go ahead and start the tracking here. That tracking basically starts capturing the breadcrumb of where the helicopter is flying as we move along. And then as I spot observations or sort of populations out there, I'll be able to click on this observation here. It pulls this up for me, and I'm going to go ahead and put the numbers as I see them here. So I will say that I saw 12 pairs and 3 unpaired ones out there. And because I'm sitting in Redlands, it's going to put this just with where I am. I have an option to say, this is not the place I want to put the point. And so I want to adjust the map myself. This is something that you can enable. And this is something that talking to the team, you might be able to see a population that is maybe 100 meters or sort of 300 yards from where you're flying, but you still want to record that, and you can record it and basically be able to move this point. In my case, I love to travel a little bit and go all the way to Kansas, and I'll put that point within this particular stratum here. And as soon as I get to that point, I click OK. It gets mapped into that, and I can see that I have recorded that as needed. Yes, my GPS is going to return me to my blue dot, which this is really key because it shows me where I am in respect to the other observations that have been made, as well as the other strata that I need to basically hit along the way. I'm still tracking that, and so that basically becomes very easy for me to be able to do that. If you're connected, the information is going to be sent as you collect it. You can see my records from the observation perspective indicate that they've all been sent. If they've not been sent, you'll be able to see something here that is telling you that there's still some information that is on device. I'll repeat this real quick here, and you all can see that. So I'll put that in, I'll say in this particular case, I will not travel too far. I'll just put it anywhere close to Redlands and put that dot there. You can see the records on the device, and this indicates that these are the ones that have not been sent yet. If you are offline, all that information is going to be stored within your device until you get to the office or you get back to a place where you've got connection, and all that information is going to sink in back into your database. And when you're done with the surveys and everything is all good to go, you can go ahead and stop the tracking. Now, it's going to give me this error, and particularly it's giving me this error because it does not have sufficient information of variables that it has collected to generate a line that meets that threshold of being able to travel such amount of distance. So this is something that happens if you don't cover that distance, but the GPS is going to be tracking you along. So you shouldn't be running into this problem. And you can see, I'll show you an example of some of the records that have been able to track that those records as you see. So with that information, let's say you've completed this, you're good to go. All the information has been sent back into your database, which is in this case, it's ArcGIS Online. So what I want to do is go back into ArcGIS Online, or basically into the office, and I want to figure out where I have my information collected and things like that. So what I'm going to do is pull up my ArcGIS Online here. And what I have here is basically a dashboard that summarizes that information. At the very launch of this dashboard, it just gives me very simplistic metrics of my observations and the survey that I've been doing. So as soon as this refreshes here, you'll be able to see I have completed 12 surveys. The total population that I have recorded over time is 489. Out of that, 188 of those collections or observations are pairs, and 113 of them are unpaired. This is the distance that I have covered within that process as I have been going through it. And again, some quick information here. This is all configurable, so you can make it the way you want to look like and things like that. if I want to quickly go and say, I want to just see the information that I've mapped within this current month, I'm able to select that and just show the information right here, meaning that I've completed 5 surveys, and this is the population and things like that within this. I can go to the last month, I can see the metrics of that, and you can configure this to be as much as you want, as needed. I'll go to the entire period here. And for the purposes of this demonstration again here, I'm going to go ahead and just pick a sample plot that I know has some data that I collected. So I'll go ahead and put H43 here, which is a high select. I'll go ahead and select that. And as soon as I select that, I'm able to see the observations that have been made specifically within that stratum. And I can see on the map here, the information that is also within that. You can see my line segment here, which indicates the travel distance or sort of the travel path that I've taken along the way, as well as the observations that I have been able to capture along that particular route. You can select one of these, and that is going to pull information specifically to this particular observation and give you the details. And again, this information is very configurable. You can make it whatever you want to make it and show that as part of that as needed. With that, I'll quickly transition to show something else here, which is building on this, but it's a little bit additional steps of this, and that is about the pronghorn surveys. This pronghorn surveys is basically the same configuration, but in this particular case, we've been able to talk to the team and say, for our pronghorn, the data that we want to collect is a little bit more complex than our GIS surveys. And so with that, we try to map what technology components could really fit those particular requirements. I'll go ahead and click on open here or collect here. And when I open this, what we have done is we've configured this data collection to happen within survey 1 to 3, but we want to capture the flight path that we've been going through the same way we did for the GIS on this. To connect these two, we have a QuickCapture that has been configured to do this. But we do want to make sure that whenever we are going out and tracking a path, we can identify what observation really connects to that particular path, because you could be doing different things at different times along the way and you want to connect them. So we have this observation ID that we are using here, which is automatically generated by the system. And if I click on this QuickCapture here, it goes ahead and pulls that map for me within QuickCapture. It transfers that observation ID for me here. And all I need to do at this particular point here is click on the pronghorn tracking, and it's going to start that breadcrumb again for this particular observation. When I do that, I go back into my survey and I can go ahead and put my information here. I'm not going to bore you with my slow typing and everything here. You basically can see how this goes and all the information that you collect here. You can go ahead and basically fill out the information all the way to the bottom. And the observation kind of go here with the map of where you are, the side of the observation that you're seeing them, the behavior, whether it's walking, whether it's running, laying, or things like that. And sort of the details of the amount of observation that you're seeing with the different species and sexes that you have. And with that, you basically complete your observation, you save that information, and you put it all in. So the only difference that we have here is basically that we have more attributes that we are collecting. And because within QuickCapture, we have a limitation of configuring up to 3 buttons that you can collect data interactively for the user. That's why we are saying we will take this collection into survey 1 to 3, but still figure out a way of making sure that we are tracking that breadcrumb of the path that we are passing through within QuickCapture, so that we can have all that information all saved up and ready to go. I've not configured a dashboard for this yet. As Mike said, this is an ongoing project, which we are still going to be configuring that so that that information can just basically be, it's a one-pager. Someone can go there and see the information right there, and you can be able to track it as needed. So all that is very COTS or sort of out of the box capabilities that we have shown. there are multiple ways that you can configure this to meet the particular needs that you have. And if you have any questions related to that, we can have a conversation around that, and we can tell you, okay, if you need this, this is a custom or this is a quote and things like that. But there are definitely way too many things that we can do to make sure that we fit this within a very low maintenance sort of plan, if you will, in terms of you needing to update or sort of needing to maintain any custom code and things like that. So with that said, I will shift gears a little bit and go to the Nevada use case, which I know it's for the most part something that you all have heard about. With Nevada, it's again something that started from we did not have much of capabilities that we needed within this. And so Nevada was basically coming and telling us, these are the things we need. How can we make those happen? And we would evaluate ways of how can we make sure that we are coming up with a solution that is as close as possible to codes, but at the same time, accommodating the specific needs that we have that are coming from the biologists within Nevada. And for that particular reason, what we did is we leveraged almost, like I would call it probably a 65-35% type of split, where 65% of it is basically codes, 35% of it is basically on the custom side. And with this, one of the things that we did is instead of building a custom app that we basically have to push into Google Play and Apple Play and things like that for them to be able to download, we used an ArcGIS App Studio Player app, which is available on both of these stores. And we built our applications and deployed it into this. All you would need is your sign in into ArcGIS Online, and you'd be able to get these applications. It's again a combination of Survey 1 to 3 and QuickCapture, which is basically meaning that it's using templates that are leveraged in Survey 1 to 3 and QuickCapture to bring these capabilities together so that you can basically collect your data. The starting point is the Survey 1 to 3, and this is sort of where you come and you do your pre-planning and everything that you need to do before you go and start going into the space to into the collection of the information as needed. I'll go ahead and click on collect. And when I click on collect, basically it gives me the survey details. This is where I am today. And you can basically put a survey ID here. So I'll call it S123-001 for the purposes of this. You mark the starting point and the end time and things like that, as in ending time and things like that. If you want to have recording on, you can do that as needed. You can turn it off if you do not want it to be recording the audio. If you want to have that haptic capture detectability so that you can know, if you press a button, you basically have those confirmed that they've been entered or not. You can check these on and off as needed. You confirm your seating arrangements here, the personnel details, and so forth and so forth. I'm not going to fill out all the details here. You can see this is information that is basically used for the purposes of just seeing the information that you're doing for the planning. One critical thing I want you to pay attention to is the species details here. This is where you plan the type of species you're going out to fly. And so you can choose the types of species that you choose here, or you want to go and capture. And those are the ones that on the QuickCapture side, as you're out there, we're going to be taking this and grouping them so that you can now put your information in terms of the numbers that you're seeing along the way as needed. For the purposes of this, I would just use an existing survey that I have already sent. In this particular case, I'll use this, this one here. And I can view the information first so that you can all see what information I've put on this. Or this kind of just walking down here, you can see what information I captured here for my pre-planning. We've got elk, we've got deer spring, we've got bighorn desert. And then if I close this and just go back to it again, I will say, now collect this in QuickCapture. That is the pre-planning. It's going to now go into my QuickCapture. When I click that, the applications are linked together, sharing the IDs back and forth as needed. And now when I come on this side, it's able to take that particular record, put it on my QuickCapture. And because I said I want to have recording of my audio collected and things like that, all that information is already passed on to this application and it's able to do that. The biggest piece that you're seeing here is the customization that we made for Nevada. So if you look at the UI here, it's a little different from what you are seeing on the other side with QuickCapture. That is the biggest customization that we are making. I can expand these and you can see the different types of information that we have. So you can see the different species that I chose, the elk, deer spring, and bighorn desert. Those are the ones that are here. And I do have the numbers here that I will be collecting along the way as I go along. If I need to take a note, I can do that and basically put that note. Or if I need to say I need to revisit this, I can do that as needed. And that information is going to be captured in here. For the Nevada case, we did have that tracking of the breadcrumb automatic so that you don't have to press anything to start any tracking or things like that. So that is why you see here, it's collecting that already. I'll go ahead and start the species capture collection here or the observation collection as needed. I'll click on elk. And with this, you see again, the UI is a little bit different here. I go here and say the number of females that I see are 5. And this button here basically shows you, if you click on any other number here, it's going to increment by that. If you want to say, oh, I meant to say there are actually 7, and you want to reduce by 1, you click on this, you click 1, and it reduces that to this. Same thing to this. You can basically go ahead and click on these. Same way, same thing with the male classification, which they use a little bit different classification for the males and things like that. You are able to capture those as needed. If you've got any particular unclassified species that you see, you have the option of putting those in as needed. And if you want to flag an observation so that you can come back and see it or sort of visit it later, you can do that as needed. So you can flag that. And after you do that, click on submit, and it's going to ask you, would you like to group, would you like to continue with another subgroup, or you basically are not willing to do that? If you say yes, then it's going to ask you if you want to be the same species, or say yes. And I'll just quickly go ahead and click on the numbers here and click on submit again. And then I say no. And that basically becomes my collection for this particular case here. I can stop this breadcrumb now and say I'm good to go. I can go here and see the information that I'm collecting here, and you can see sort of my little dots that have been put on this as needed. For the purposes of not messing up the data that's already in there, I'm not going to send this. So I'll basically just close that, and I'll transition over to the dashboard that we are using with Nevada to basically see all this information as it is coming in. And so this is the dashboard that they have. And again, it's another one page or one-stop place that you go and say, now that we've finished all the collection, now we have the data, can I see what is out there and sort of the summary statistics that are captured in here? We chose to have this load a blank slate so that you basically have the option of choosing whatever you want to see. And so go ahead here and start with the date range. And for the purposes of the demo, I'll just go back to last year and just pick November 1 and choose to say, I want that to go through, let's say, let me say today for the purposes of the demonstration again. It's a lot of data, but I think I'll be able to deal with it, and ArcGIS Online would be able to hold that for me. With that, you can see the summaries here, real quick summarized for you, the number of total surveys, the population of the males, the females, the juveniles, the unclassified, and the total dots that you're dealing with, or sort of you have collected so far. Again, these are numbers that are specific to what Nevada was saying. I need to see these particular informations along the way. You can go ahead and say, I want to look at specific people who are doing this. And so I'll pick the survey as this username. That gets tailored to that. And for my purposes here, I'll go ahead and say, I want to look at Bighorn, California. And that brings the number down to this. As you continue doing that, you can see all the information kind of getting filtered and filtered down as needed. I'll go ahead and select one of these. And with that selection, now I'm able to see the map is now zoomed and focused to that area. I can come here and enable some of these observational sort of details that are hidden here so that I can see the dots on the map and what is going on from that perspective. And if you want to zoom out a little bit more or further, you can see those along the way. Critical to this, you'll be able to see the sex ratio trend lines by the group ID. And so as you're grouping these informations or sort of observations along the way, we are getting that information summarized and populated and sort of kind of shown over to you in a live manner, as you can see here. So you can see the male to female trend line in terms of ratios, the juvenile to female and juvenile to adults. And so those are things that you can see here. You can zoom this if you want to take a quick look at some close-up here and say you're interested in looking at these particular surveys that have been done in this particular region or sort of species for that reason. You can choose another species and it kind of maps you back into same thing. If it doesn't have anything, it doesn't show that, but you can play around with this and kind of see all the information here as needed. And again, it's an interactive dashboard. You can kind of do the different things that you want to see or kind of visualize along the way as needed. There's also a detailed stats in case that is of any particular interest. If you want to look at the species count by sex, the male count, remember I said the male count in Nevada, they normally count them in a different way in the groups of the year and things like that. And so you can see the 2 years, the 4 years, 6 years, and so forth along the way. And so you can see those groupings right here as needed, as well as the female, juvenile, and such along the way here. And again, you can browse this along, be able to play around with it, see the data, and you can see if it doesn't have any data, it's basically going to report to you that there's no particular data for that particular selection along the way as you go along. And again, you can change these to any particular species that you're interested in looking at. You can take a look at them, see the data, and things like that. Along the way, I don't seem to be hitting some species that have got any data within them, but I think you see the idea or sort of the, we try with elk for now and see what luck I get. Okay, that is giving us some juice here, so that's good. So you can see another quick summary of the details, the ratio trend lines, the detailed stats here as you desire as needed. And so that is the work we've done with Nevada. This is sort of, again, on the custom side, but for the most part, as I said, it's very heavy on the courts and very light on the customization. And this is something that was very intentional because we did not want to give Nevada some solution and then they end up needing to hire a developer that will have to maintain the code along the way for any update that needs to be done. It's something that is deployed in ArcGIS Online, which means as ArcGIS Online is making updates, the solution grows with that as needed, and it's able to retain that along the way. And with that, I'll stop there and see whether we have any particular questions.
Hi, Joseph. This is John Weidler with South Dakota Game and Fish. I just had a couple questions. So my first question is, App Studio is getting retired in, I believe, 2025. So do you have any plans to update the Nevada app to, I think it's called ArcGIS Maps for SDK or something? And then my second question, is this using the location tracking extension? Because I know if you want to do this same thing in field maps, it requires that extra license. And we found out that all those breadcrumb features we collect automatically get deleted after 30 days. So those are my two questions.
Great questions, John. The first question, do we plan to transition the Nevada solution? We are in talks with Nevada to figure out what they want to do. Technically, after the retirement of App Studio, the solution will continue working. They will only not be able to make any updates with what we have right now. So they're kind of like, you're stuck with it, or sort of the version that you have is what you get right now. And that was part of the reason they wanted to push for some updates, which we completed this year. And they kind of got that into a state that they know they're not going to be making any much changes in the near future. But we are talking with them, and if they need to make any particular updates, we do plan to transition them to the new SDK that we have right now. The other second question that you have, great question. We are using location, but not the location tracking feature within ArcGIS Online as it is. The reason for that is because within field maps and that location tracking feature, the way it is right now, it's being saved in some sort of ephemeral disk, and we do not have access to that. And you can only store the records of that up to 30 days. And because of that, that's why we chose to go with a QuickCapture route, which enables us to actually have a feature service, which is basically a line, and tell QuickCapture, you go and collect a line within, like, be collecting a vertex at the period of every 6 seconds or 3 seconds or something like that, and write into that line and basically generate that line for me. And it becomes our flight path. And that is to avoid that issue of you do have to collect that location tracking layer, you don't have access to it, and when it disappears, you still need it, and now you are stuck with where can you get it. And so for that reason, we transitioned to that collecting into an actual feature service within ArcGIS Online using QuickCapture, which it allows for that as compared to field maps and Survey 123, which is using the location tracking feature.
Just one thing to add, John and everyone else, I'll send some follow-up information. I've been talking to Chanda and Dana on the side. We don't have access to the chat, unfortunately. I'm not sure why, but Teams is Teams. But I'll send in follow-up some additional information related to App Studio and the options, right, going forward, because there are a few options there beyond just, you know, the SDK for .NET MAUI and so on and so forth. So just wanted to mention that at this point, but very good questions for sure.
Anybody else have questions? Oh, I see a hand raised. Go ahead.
Hi there, Brendan Oates with Washington Fish and Wildlife. Thanks, Mike and Joseph, for putting this together. Appreciate it. We're going through our own process of creating our custom application, and we're leaning more towards just using QuickCapture instead of using Survey 123. Mainly just Survey 123 for the header information, but like subunit ID, like selecting that on the fly in QuickCapture itself instead of Survey 123, because going back and forth between the two apps has created a lot of problems as far as like app stability is concerned. And one of the issues we have right now that we're trying to think through is editing observations on the fly. So like, let's say you encounter a group on the landscape and you're continuing to survey the subunit, and then you re-encounter that same group and you need to redo the count. Or you need to edit a count from a previous group. And was wondering if the QuickCapture team is building in that functionality anytime in the future, or if there are any plans to do that, or if it's just going to stay like it is.
Yeah, I can take that, Mike.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
Great progress, Brennan. And I know you guys are trying to do this on your end, which I'm very excited to see the output of what you guys create. Now, in terms of that feature to edit existing information, I have not heard of any particular plans to have it yet. However, I would say if that is something that you need and you would have some specific business sort of use case for it, I would highly suggest you either put it under ArcGIS ideas, and if you do not know where that goes, you can basically send Mike and I an email, and we can get in touch with the QuickCapture team and just let them know this is something that would be of need, and we can talk to them and see if they can consider it as part of this. I'll say one quick thing that you mentioned about the IDs. I was in a holistic testing last week with QuickCapture, and they're bringing in the ability to use arcade expressions within QuickCapture, and that opens up a little bit of some flexibilities on how you can generate some IDs or some things that you can do with arcade that enable you to generate some of these things instead of going to survey 1, 2, 3, generating the IDs from there and pushing it into the QuickCapture site and getting the information put into your collection as you go along. So that's just something I wanted to mention there before I forget.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, Brendan, I definitely encourage you to reach out to us with those requirements too, right? With the editing and on the fly and QuickCapture. I think, you know, too, I interface a lot with DFW, with the Advantage program and that kind of thing too. But as I kind of alluded to in the beginning, we've had the attention of our product teams for a while, right? Relative to aerial surveys and things. And I think do the ideas thing, but also get it to us as well. And, you know, we can help kind of bring that forward and see what we can make happen there. So. But thank you
Great.
for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yep.
Looks
Hey,
like Paul
Paul.
has a question.
Yep. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Mike. Just wanted to, while I've got you here, curious about if you're still heading to .NET Maui. I did see that there is a Qt SDK that is going to be coming online, but is QuickCapture going to be going to Maui, and any updates on that timeline of when that release will be available?
Joseph, you probably have the best updates.
In terms of timeline,
Yeah.
None. We cannot guarantee that or sort of give that,
Right.
but it's definitely going to be coming to Maui for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Joshua?
Josh.
Yeah, this is Josh Mum from Alaska Fish and Game. I had a question about where these data are stored. I understand in these applications, the data are stored either on Arc Online or Arc Enterprise. How achievable do you think it would be to route that to an external database, say a SQL Server database through a SD or any other means, just to facilitate data management and archiving, etc.?
That's totally possible
Very
as we
much,
speak
yeah.
right now. So
Mhm.
if you wanted to do that, you can do that right now.
Okay, great to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
You think of both examples we showed, it's ArcGIS Online based, right? And things are being leveraged out of there, but through you know, distributed collaboration, you could bring that into, right, and sync it effectively, right, with ArcGIS Enterprise. There's also, of course, scripting options, ETL options. There's all kinds of options there. That's a challenge that we're often faced with, whether these workflows or others. So they are definitely very possible.
Charlotte, you want to take the stage here?
Sure, yeah. I was curious about the screen where you had elk and you had columns and you could enter in the total and then take away or add to those totals. Because in most well, what I've seen in you can only enter one field per screen and you have to advance through screens. Was that view that had the column something generated in QuickCapture, or was that generated elsewhere? I kind of missed as we were bouncing back and forth.
You're talking about this?
Yes.
Yeah, this is part of the customization that we did for the QuickCapture template to allow us to be able to do this for Nevada.
Okay, so that's not something I can do.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It's not a feature out of the box yet.
Right.
I guess for now, I'm trying to figure out how to do these group collections easier. So I looked at the proportion of animals I saw that fell in groups of between 1 and 3. And actually a lot of my animals fall in that category. My groups fall in that category. So now I have a button for a single goat, button for 2 adult goats, a button for a nanny kid pair. And then I have a group. And if I hit group, then it will take me through the page, you know, the classification pages, but I have to advance through those pages. That's what I'm trying for right now, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Yeah, I think I would do exactly the same thing if you're using QuickCapture for that. You could have some sort of different arrangements on survey 1 to 3 to be able to achieve the same thing. But if you're trying within QuickCapture, I would say what you have, like having those groups and separating them as such, would be the most optimal way. And then you kind of go through the entries of the observations or the numbers as you go along.
The other thing I noticed in QuickCapture is I needed to have a confirmation or some kind of positive confirmation to accept a data point. Otherwise, I'd just accidentally bump a button and end up with a whole bunch of records that then I didn't know what was real and what was just a tummy bump or something in the plane. So I started adding just you know, did you see a bear or whatever, and then or how many bears or something like that to just be a positive confirmation of a button hit. Anyways, thanks.
So with that, I'm not sure that this would help, but when you have that collection, there is a feature or there is a functionality within the map that you can say, after you do the data point on the map, you, like the way you saw me kind of put the point but then move the map, you could do that and that can become sort of semi-confirmation. But I can also understand how quickly the plane is going, and if you do not want that extra, you put the point and then you have to zoom back and forth and things like that. That could be distracting and things like that. But that could be another thing I can just throw out there from a configuration perspective.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So last call for some questions. Okay. Well, Mike and Joseph, thank you so much for presenting today. I think this is very helpful for a lot of states within WAFWA and beyond. We will just look for that email that Chand is going to send out that has some more additional information from Mike and or Joseph.
Yep.
And we'll get that distributed to you all.
Yep. Yeah, I have several things I was going to send, some regular links, but also based on some of the questions that were asked with some additional information. I think that'll be helpful, and just our contact info as well if you all don't have it. So happy to have the opportunity to connect with you all today and show you what we've been working on with everyone. And please reach out if you have additional questions and things like that. So again, just very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us and good luck with all the things you're doing, and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.